to feel alive. I'm
Check. What is up? Welcome back. I'm your host, Sleep D's. Welcome back to Sleepover. Shouts out to everybody that checked out last week's episode titled The Big Bad Wolf and Will Army Be the Final Blow to Live Nation? What did I call it? Ticketmaster's Monopoly. It's a great conversation surrounding that. I know that we didn't get a chance to do the call-in, so we will do that this Wednesday evening for sure. The reason why we didn't do it this week is because it's my mom's birthday and I had to spend some time with the family. So I wasn't able to do the call-in. Happy birthday, Mama Bear, my favorite Sagittarius, as I call her. Sagittarius season. Shouts out to her. And so we are back to talk about some more things to get us into some more trouble. Shouts out to the Patronis holding it down. Appreciate y'all immensely. We had some really good comments. Matter of fact, I should just kind of like pull up a few of them here. Let me see. There was somebody that left some really good commentary. Juliet Damaso 7588 left some really good conversation. I really appreciate what you left and what you had to say. Yeah, I had some really good conversation in the comments section. I also told you guys to let me know where we were going, and I see some people put me in their pocket and took me to the dentist. Shouts out to Mags. Steven took me to work. He said now I have health care. So shouts out to Steven for sharing his benefits. Appreciate it. Man, it's funny is this is very random, and I know better than this from all the years of recording and engineering studio sessions. Certain things that you eat before you get on the microphone, it's not the best thing to do, and I just had spicy food. Big no. But yeah, sheesh. I feel like I'm on an episode of Hot Ones. But yeah, I just lost my whole train of thought. What was I gonna say? But yeah, I watched RM's live stream, and I also had a conversation at the barbershop with someone that was interested in, and for some reason the two conversations kind of feel like they collide. Oh my gosh, I don't even know if I could do this right now. Okay, so I'm back. One of the things that stood out in the live stream when he was talking about, some people said something to him about why did they waste the second half of 2025? And, these type of situations, like, obviously, I know more than I would ever be willing to say, when it comes to just like some of the business, but like hypothetically, if someone is, from the art side is also, and, the weight that you carry, like what BTS carries in their situation, the expectation that they're going to be uprooted for 2 years of their lives, all the anticipation and anxiety leading up to enlistment, and just come out and just write material, write new music, try to be up on the latest thing that's happening, the latest ways to put out content and material and music videos and all these different things. 2 years in the music business is like 10 years in regular in another area, if that makes sense. Things change quite drastically. The industry moves very fast, like technology. The industry is constantly moving along with technology, right? We are still, as a music business, figuring things out and recovering from the pandemic, figuring out this new landscape. And the expectation for these guys to get out of the military in June? 7 different guys different personalities, different tastes, different likes, different ways they want to express themselves artistically. Supposed to just throw them in some writing camps, throw them with the producers, and have them write songs and put out an album by the fall, December, January. Like, the fact that they're even willing to say, like, okay, we're going to drop some new music in the springtime. Investors and shareholders and the people around him, whoever is like, you know, pressing his line about quote unquote wasting the second half of 2025 is crazy. And this takes me back to the conversation I was having in the barbershop. We were talking about you know, separating like creativity, art from commerce, you know. And this started because, you know, they asked me how I felt about they saw the stories about hip hop not being in the top 40 for the first time in like 35 years, right? It was the first time that the Billboard Top 40 had 0 hip hop records in it. It didn't have any rap tracks for that week. The last time this happened was February 1990 when Just a Friend by Biz Markie sat at 41 on the charts, trying to crack in the top 40. And after that cracked into the top 40, this whole time there's never not been a rap song, hip hop song in the top 40. It's interesting that it's that song too. That's pretty cool because the longevity of that record is a classic. That record is culture. That record is constantly synced in commercials and movies and all those different things like that. Biz Markie was able to have a career touring into his older age before he passed, performing that song places, right? That's important. So, you know, I just like some of the interesting theories around why there's no hip hop in the top 40. One of the guys, he's a big Drake fan, and he was like, oh, now you see what happens when Drake's not doing this and that because he was carrying the music industry and all this different stuff like that. Totally irrelevant to the conversation or to the scenario at hand, right? But it's just, you know, for me, being someone that's in the music business and hearing like these different perspectives from consumers, especially in a place like the barbershop, which is, you know, for anybody listening that doesn't know, like you go into any, especially any black barbershop across the country, these are the kind of conversations, it's debates, is LeBron better than Jordan, or was Kobe better than LeBron, or is rap, you know, it's just whatever. You got Drake, you got Kendrick, like these are the kind of things that we have historically done in barbershops. It's like where all the street news is at. You can get up to speed on that while getting the fade. But the funny thing is just like this weird like sense of like panic that the guys had when they asked me like, oh man, it's like no hip hop in the top 40, hip hop is dying, hip hop is this and that. It's like, okay. I told them it doesn't matter because hip hop was playing in the barbershop when I walked in. You hear it in cars passing by. It's everywhere. It's not going anywhere. There's a reason why there was no hip hop in the Billboard Top 40 in that week in particular. And I'll get into that. So one of the reasons why there was no hip hop in the top 40 and, you know, had this not happened, this whole thing wouldn't have been a story. Nobody would have even noticed. But, you know, Billboard is constantly changing their rules. Army knows that. Like, Billboard is constantly doing something new, tinkering with this, tinkering with that to kind of have the charts do whatever it is that their underlying goal is for the charts, right? They instituted a recurrent rule, which if you have a hit that is on the Hot 100 for like over a certain amount of time, that record comes off the Hot 100, right? And so these rules had just started, and one of the records that fell off was Kendrick Lamar and SZA's hit single Luther, which After 46 weeks, it was still in the top 10 or top 20. And it spent 13 weeks at number 1 and became the most streamed song in the history of Spotify, right? So Luther, just like Not Like Us, it was forced into recurrent status because it failed to stay above number 25 in its 26th week. It's something to do with like Billboard's new rules. So boom, it's gone. And with Luther removed, went the last rap song in the top 40 at the moment. So suddenly there's a gap, and then other songs rush in. And so what filled the void that week? Well, Taylor Swift dropped. Okay, so when Taylor drops an album, her whole album is going to flood the charts, right? And, you know, they're going to buy their multiple collectibles, the vinyl version, they're going to stream, they're going to do their thing, right? And I think that resulted in, 12 songs from the album were in the top 40. That's 12, right? So now you have the 25%, basically a little bit over 25% of the top 40 is Taylor Swift's album. Now you add in this year's unexpected sensation, K-pop Demon Hunters, right? All those songs, the Huntrix, and they have 5 or 6 spots of the top 40. So right now, half of the top 40 for that week is K-pop Demon Hunters and Taylor Swift's Life of a Showgirl, or whatever the name of the album was. So with that, you know, it's only 20 spots left, right? And those were snatched up by, you know, a mix of, you know, pop, R&B, country, and all that kind of stuff, right? So, and then also too, this is October. So even you have Michael Jackson creeping up with Thriller on the charts. So with that particular shuffle of tracks going on, no hip hop track managed to squeeze in. It's fine. It was a statistical fluke. And what's even more important though in the conversation is it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. Because hip hop is alive and well and it is everywhere. This has been a big year for hip hop. You had so many rappers over the age of 40, our legacy acts, drop fantastic albums. The Clips are nominated for Rap Album of the Year at the Grammys. They did their thing. We got records from Nas, we got records from Raekwon, we got records from Freddie Gibbs. So many dope MCs put out really, really dope music, right? Now, you know, Black Americans, we make up 13-14% of the entire United States population. 13 to 14%. And to me, if artists are making music that is authentic to your experience, and making music that is true to your values and what you believe in, and you are making art for the sake of making art, and you are not making art with the intent to try to be popular, right? Try to hit the pop charts. That shouldn't be your goal when you're making rap. Like the influence and the dopeness and the realness and the authenticity is what made it cross over to begin with, is people telling their stories. And somewhere along the line, we lost the plot and started trying to make records specifically for the radio to get, you know, and I know why, to get budgets and different things like that so you can get the promotion. One thing, I'm not going to get too deep into it today, but I will at some point. But, you know, the departments at record labels have different budgets. They've split it up to the urban budget and the pop budget, which is also a big part of the problem, because you have a record like, let's see, I don't even know the kid's name. He's an independent artist. The song was everywhere on TikTok. I think his name is Kobe, King Kobe, and it was like, throw it in a circle, throw it. I don't even know the song. But that song was everywhere. I seen the TikTok a zillion times. And not only did I see the TikToks, But I seen the dance crossing over into college football heavily. Carnell Tate scored a touchdown, and he did the little dance, like wham, throw it in a circle, something like that the song goes. Some of y'all might know what I'm talking about. NFL players, as soon as the season started, they score a touchdown. They all doing the same thing. And, you know, in my opinion, like usually when a record is taken off like that, and, the kid, the young man that did that record, maybe he didn't want to do a record deal. Maybe he wanted to remain independent and make all of his master royalties, and he probably made a ton of money because I know that song streamed a whole lot. And if all that money went into his pocket and he didn't take a major record deal to get the marketing and the glam and the glitz that kind of comes with them putting you everywhere, so be it. So be it, so be it. That's perfectly okay, because if we are making music that is for us, that is a party record to turn up the party where he is at, in the places and the environments that he is in. Just because a hip hop song does not land on the pop charts does not mean that it does not land and connect with our community, and that's dope to me. So if hip hop has to quote unquote take a step back because we weren't on the charts for this 1 week or 2 weeks or whatever the case may be, but people are making music that still resonates within our community, I'm totally okay with that, because then maybe that'll make a lot of artists get back to making art, not making a commodity. And we have to get to a point where we separate the commerce and the creativity, man, because it has made the music very watered down. It's opened the floodgates for a lot of people who aren't really of the culture to participate. And people who don't care about hip hop, they just rap because they like to be able to rhyme some words and put some words together. And damn, what's you have the 6-7 is everywhere. That came from a rap song, came from a hip hop song. Is that song on the charts? I have no clue if that song is on the charts, but that damn 6-7 is everywhere. In-N-Out Burger removed order number 67 from the menu. From the cash register, because it was causing too much pandemonium and chaos in the stores whenever that would happen. As a rapper did that, a street rapper at that, it created that trend just from the sauce, just from the swag, just from the way we put things together. So he didn't do that with the intention of thinking that was going to go viral, but for whatever reason, who knows, whatever reason it caught, like half the people don't even know what it means. Streets know what it means. He knows what it means. Hip hop knows what it means. If you listen between the lines, you can put it together. You know what it means. Most people don't even know what it means. I saw a college basketball game being played, and the young lady was getting ready to shoot her free throw. She shot the first one, scored 66 points. The whole arena is going crazy pandemonium because they're waiting for her to shoot her next basket so the team could have 67 points, and they're all in there doing their hands, doing the 6-7 thing. That's hip hop. That came from hip hop. That came from rap. So yeah, these songs might not have charted in the top 40 because they're not getting this big bag of money thrown at radio. Oops. They might be independent artists, but these songs are connecting. They're connecting within our community. They're still crossing over. Like I said, we are 13 or 14% of the population, but we are still making art that the whole world feels is still a culture that drives the way that people walk, talk, and dress. It's one of the few genres that you actually live out, and that's a beautiful thing. And it doesn't need billboard. It don't need it. We don't need it. We don't need it. We never needed it. Billboard needs us. Billboard needs hip hop. It validates the charts, because if it doesn't exist there, but it exists everywhere in the world, then who has the problem? So to put it plainly, hip hop didn't fall off so much. It just got crowded out for a minute. Taylor, she's a force, and she dominates. And when she drops, everything stops around her, Billboard is constantly tweaking this formula, and that's just how the chips fell that week. I do think that there are some conversations that can be had. I think that a lot of label execs have stopped developing rap artists. They've kind of just leaned in on the short term, trying to cash in on stuff that goes viral with the dances or the meme ready hooks and all that stuff like that, And of course, radio is a big factor on how the Hot 100 charts operate. It still accounts for a lot of radio airplay. And outside of the dedicated like urban stations, a lot of programmers don't really play a lot of rap heavily in rotation. And the other side of that, I think a lot of rap has not been really radio friendly. I think it's been a bit redundant with the sound before this year. I think this was a great year for hip hop. There's so many good hip hop albums, but I do think rap had got kind of stale for a little bit. I felt like there was definitely a revitalization when the Kendrick and Drake thing happened, and then you started having the conversations between what needs to go, what needs to stay. We had a little bit of a hip hop civil war, and I think we came out the other side of that and going in the right direction. So we got to separate commerce from the creativity, man, because the two things they weren't meant to exist, especially for hip hop. Even if hip hop's dominance on the charts takes a breather every now and then, the cultural dominance is always going to be a different story. That influence is cumulative and enduring. Can't break it, Black American artists, even though we are minority by population, we've shown an uncanny ability to steer the ship of pop culture. We are the pulse. And hip hop is one of the greatest contributions that we've had. Now, when you start getting into subgenres, you start breaking it down to rap and different things like that, I think it has also caused some harm as well. That's a whole nother episode for another day. But right now we're going to stay focused on this. In the grand scheme, this moment is really a chance to appreciate the difference between what's popular and what's important. The Billboard charts, top 40, and granted, I know I'll see my Billboard plaques and the shots, and I was super proud to get them, and I love them, and it's amazing that I was able to get some number ones. But the Billboard top 40 is a popularity contest, and it's just a snapshot of how much something was consumed in 1 week. Like I said it in the beginning, 1991, Biz Markie, Just a Friend, was number 41 on the charts. I would have to go back and go look, but I don't know how many songs that were above that record, non-hip hop songs that were above that record, above that record, sorry, that still exists today that many people would know just hearing it. As soon as you hear the first few notes, people know that chorus around the world, even if they don't know who Biz Markie was. That song stood the test of time. So when it comes to the charts, they're valuable, they're fun to watch, they are even more fun to be on them, trust me. But it's not the full story of a genre's value or vitality, the heart of hip hop and the creativity of the artist and the connection with the audience, man. It's just it's a one of a kind thing, and it's still strong, and it might not always be in the top 40, but maybe that's okay. Maybe it's not supposed to be, at its best and at its most polarizing, maybe it's not supposed to be in the top 40 right off. Hip hop was born outside the establishment anyway, and it's always been carving out its own path. So even when it dominates the charts, it's the streets and the stories and the craftsmanship that truly feel it, and it resonates with our community, So next time, whether it's next week or next year, 20 years from now, whatever the case may be, if you don't see a rap song on the charts, just remember the charts measure heads. They don't measure culture, The culture moves continuously and is often ahead of the curve, and if you listen closely beyond radio singles, you'll hear hip hop's creative voices are as loud and as impactful as ever. Look at what Nas is doing. Look into his portfolio and all the cool things he's been a founder and investor in, from Ring cameras to so many different cool things. And he's building a hip hop museum in New York. It looks incredible. It looks like it's going to be incredible. So, you know, the beats go on, the rhymes keep coming. Black American creativity shaping the world continues, trust me. Whether Billboard Top 40 knows about it or not. Now, this makes me want to circling back to RM and the conversation surrounding culture, creativity, and separating like art from commerce. You know, his situation is a little bit different, being, you know, the flagship, the face of the flagship commodity of a publicly traded company. It's a different kind of pressure. You know, if he has shareholders breathing down his neck and all these different things like that, understandable. Can totally understand how he came to, you know, bare his soul on that live stream. At the same time, like, I feel bad for, you know, for him in the sense of like, man, these guys just got out the military. They weren't on vacation. They weren't in Fiji or just Bali, just chilling. They were enlisted in the military. So if anybody had the expectation for them to just get out in June, have an album done, like, for one, like, how long, like, first off, how long do you guys think it takes to make an album? Yes, you can make an album fast, but should you? There should be some level of authenticity. There's also, like, you know, you got to warm, like, when, you know, like, if there's anybody in here that's athletic that, you know, listening, that might play a sport consistently, and then, you know, you put it down, or if anybody that's a writer, you guys know when you step away from doing something for a while, even if you don't completely step away, but when you step away from doing it professionally or at the same level that you might have been doing it consistently prior, a lot of times there's a little bit of rust. Like, you gotta shake it off a little bit, you know, and to have the expectation, or to say something along the lines of like, they wasted the second half of 2025. That's the thing, that when he said that, and I don't know if I had the right translation, so if I'm going off on a tangent in the deep end, y'all just let me know if I'm getting this completely wrong. But from what I understand, he said that he had people around him like saying that they wasted the second half of 2025. Like, I know some of what's been going on. Like, I know some of what the schedule has been. Like, wasting it is crazy. Like, that's like super disrespectful. Not only to RM as a human being, because it is, but it's also disrespectful to him as a creative. Like, the fact that people think that this shit just comes out of the sky and then we just make it great in such a short amount of time and want to throw it out to the world is actually crazy. And even more so, it's like, you know, there's even if they wanted to do something, you know, there's things that you guys will never know, you know, and he's probably not at liberty to say them. But one of the things is, like, you know, if there is pressure from the fans, be more realistic, you know. If these are your favorite artists, the way that you say they're your favorite artists, then treat them that way, and trust their process, trust the things that they have to go through to get the art out, because it's not as cut and dry and black and white as you guys might think that it is. And it never has been that way before enlistment, after enlistment, and for any of the other artists that you guys like. You know, just because there's information that you can find online and you've heard other stories and maybe listen to another podcast, like, until you actually go through the process and are involved in it, you don't know it inside out, you know, and these things are constantly in flux, constantly changing. there was another line that stood out to me where he said, unless we can deliver something that satisfies everyone, we can't return easily. So, that's the pressure that I'm speaking of when I say we need to separate art and creativity from commodity. It has to happen. One of the things that I made a point to do when I first set out to start doing, the style of content that I've been releasing, and anything that I ever do where BTS becomes like a topic of conversation, is if I'm hyping BTS up and I'm showing BTS to somebody, whether it be one of my friends on the rabbit hole or, just in general, like even if it's offline, like I don't really talk about sales. I don't talk about streams. I might talk about how the concert was crazy and sold out, because that's just something that you just can't fake having people there. Just to show magnitude. But, like I said before, stats were meant to aid the story. The stats were never meant to be the story. So if I'm going to explain to somebody or show somebody that I think BTS or anybody individually in the group is dope, I can do it without talking about sales or streams. It is a bloated thing. Like, it's so many bots nowadays. So much of the stuff that you guys see is fake, and it's just not a metric. Like, it doesn't measure impact, and it makes it very, very, very difficult for so many artists. Like, if RM is going through feeling like, unless we can deliver something that satisfies everyone, what do you think that one of your friends that's an artist is going through? Me, myself, when it's time for me to upload something or me to put out some music, like at every level, whether it's the highest high, which BTS, or, just independent artists, like that feeling of feeling like something might not be good enough, because every time you open up something on the internet and you check out the comments, the first thing you see is just hate and negativity and hate and negativity and hate and negativity, or flop, this flopped. And like, what does it matter? It doesn't matter. If you make music that impacts and connects, like, impact will always be greater than numbers. And one thing about RM and one thing about BTS, like, I hate that they feel like they have to carry so much weight, because to me, this project should feel like a victory lap. This project should feel like we came out, Map of the Soul 7 did, just such an impactful album, touched so many people love the album. The album unfortunately never got to tour. Then they took a stab at some English singles, dominated radio in America with some English records. They did so much before going to the military, and then left a whole trail of breadcrumbs of material and content and solo albums to hold everybody over while they're at the military. This comeback album should feel like a breath of fresh air for them. It should be a welcome back. And I hate that it feels like a pressure-filled, stress-filled situation, because to me, they've earned the right to put out whatever music that they want to put out, and obviously I know it's still a business. And once again, publicly traded company, shareholders, all these different things like that. But I think one of the dopest things, and I've said this before, one of the dopest things I noticed early on with Army, when I first got involved with working with BTS, I thought it was super dope how y'all gave them so much leeway to create the things that they want to create. And that gave them the courage to be able to dabble into so many different sounds and genres and colors. It was like they were able to paint with the full palette and not be limited. And that's what I would tell her. I would tell them to remember that. Just remember, whatever it is that you guys want to do, whatever you want to put out musically, you got millions of people ready and waiting to consume it whenever you're ready to drop it, whenever you're ready to put it out. So I know there's a whole business side to all of that, but also on the fam side, you know, everybody's just excited to see you guys back on stage again and put out some music and put out the music that you want to put out, bro. Like, don't let the commodity dictate the art. And I know you, so I know you would never do that. You know, it just feels like, you know, the experience just kind of exemplifies the current era of, you know, the obsession with numbers and music and this is, you know, it's not just fans, you know, media as well, you know, and I don't think that, you know, fandoms or the media realizes how much it fuels anxiety for artists. You know, and you know, just pop culture at large, you know, success is way too often judged by stats. You know, the album sales, the streams, the charts, YouTube views, and all that, and way less by the quality of the art, as it should be. You know, and if things were judged more so by the quality of the art, like, these artists are gifted. Like, a lot of artists, like, we're born with these talents and we spend years and years honing them and working on them and working on them and working on them. And then we get to a point where we have decisions we have to make. If we see a door that's open for us to kind of maybe go a little bit more of a pop route, but something that might not be authentic, a lot of artists are going to walk through that door for the chance to give themselves and give their families a better life. But if authenticity was rewarded the way it should be, I think we would get a lot more of the special artists. I think a lot of artists just kind of try to walk through the door that they can, you know. They end up chasing trends and, you know, trying to make a song for TikTok or whatever the case may be. But I think that if they knew that they were being judged by the quality of the art and not the stats, we would get greater artists that would have longer careers, and eventually that would lead to more sales and more streams and all those kinds of things like that. It just, like, that's why I've always been advocated for, and I know some people thought it was, like, fun, especially because, you know, this is not your job, you know, so I understand why you think it's fun, but people think it's fun and great to see the views on Spotify. I think it was one of the most terrible ideas. You can't see the number of the number of streams on Apple Music and these other platforms, because for one, you know, a lot of times they're lying, you know, and we've always been able to see on the back end, when we get a royalty statement, we can see exactly how many streams, and it's broken down into territories across the globe. That's why we only get paid quarterly, because it's a whole teams of people collecting that money every quarter for all the publishers, you know, producers, songwriters, and so forth. It's just like, you know, it used to just be enthusiasm for new music, you know, and now it's just kind of like evolved. I don't even say evolved. It's devolved into like scorekeeping, you know. Who sold more? Who charted higher? Oh, you ain't chart. Oh, you ain't sell nothing. Oh, who broke which record? And then you start even seeing the records where it's like, this artist is the first person to ever do this and have this many streams on a day when the weather is 70 degrees or higher and the humidity is under this percentage. They're the first person to do that. It's like they start shifting the narrative to create records. And it's just like, it just turns into like, man, is the music good or not? Like, I don't care about none of that. Like, is it dope? Is it dope? That's really all I care about. Is it something that I'm gonna want to listen to when I'm riding in the car? Is it something I want to listen to when I'm going to the gym? Is it something that it's going to get me through a hard time? Like, it's people that have showed me the lyrics tattooed on them from my time, you know? So it's like, are you making things that are impacting and helping people, you know, or making somebody want to, you know, rap the lyrics in the mirror before they're getting ready to go out, or, you know, listening to your music before they're getting ready to play football or basketball or soccer or hockey or baseball or whatever the case may be, you know. And I'm not knocking like celebrating achievements, because I don't think that that's bad, but I just think that the overemphasis on metrics, it just overshadows the music. Like, we're not even talking about the music. And I also, too, the other thing that I don't like about it is it makes people scared to jump out first and say like if they like something or not. Like so many people, especially younger people, I'm seeing them, they want to wait and see. Like one of my least favorite things on Twitter that I see is when they ask a question, how we feeling about the such and such album? Like, what you mean how we feeling? How you feel about it? Come out and say that you like it. Why you gotta how we feel about it? You want to see if other people are digging it first before you come out and say like, oh yeah, I like that. That's crazy to me. I just think that, focusing too much on numbers, it can just really warp how we value art. And if we're gonna reduce songs to just their commercial performance, then what are we doing? Spotify Wrapped is a joke. Just I don't want to. It's crazy. I don't want to knock it. There's a whole nother story tied to that too, because that was created by a Black woman. She's an intern, and they didn't hire her on after her internship, and they took the whole idea for Spotify Wrapped, and now it's this whole big old thing at the end of every year. It's just, oh man. But I just feel really bad for artists. I feel bad for myself getting ready to put out no music. It just the climate is brutal, and even the big dogs, even the biggest artists are not immune to a bunch of people calling something a flop or just overly critiquing it if it doesn't exceed some crazy expectations that are based on what that are just, it's just some made up number that somebody feels like is the benchmark of how much something should have did or should have sold. It's so cringe to me when I see people like saying like, oh, first week they only sold 40K. It's like, that's not even like a real metric on how to like grade if an artist is really, really connecting. Same artist, I don't think Glorilla had great first week numbers on one of her projects, and she was getting clowned for it, and now it's like she nominated for a Grammy. Everybody knows who she is when she goes places. She's booking shows. She booked and she busy, So, if you guys took anything from Arm's discussion and, just the reactions afterwards, I just think it just demonstrates exactly why separating art from commerce is so important, but it's also super difficult in this climate. As an artist, I feel like RM wants to create, wants to connect, but as a public figure, he's constantly measured by metrics and, just commentary and people wanting to create narrative. Like, that's another thing that's annoying about the internet is people want to create a through line, create a story that they can just run with, sensationalize something, and people don't even dig into to see what it's about. People just kind of see a headline or whatever the case may be, and that's the story to a lot of people. So I mean, just hearing bro out, like, I don't think it was a sign of weakness. I just think it was a human response to an inhuman level of expectation, and it shines a light on the mental burden carried by the people at the top. It's a burden often, hidden behind, high production value and everything else. But that's what makes them dope and special and unique. And I think that's why they have the connection with Army that they have, is because they're willing to. So, yeah, I mean, the fact that somebody of like RM's stature, a global superstar with a whole army behind him can feel the weight of, just making sure that they get the music right. It speaks volumes about the current state of music fandom and these unforgiving, metrics and just a bunch of stuff that don't matter. At the end of the day, we should be ready to celebrate the art. You take it, you listen to it, you take the ones that are for you, and you keep them. And what's not for you, it's not for you. You might like everything. You might like 80%, you might like 60%. But at the end of the day, if you truly care about the artist in the way that you claim to, you should just know that they're making songs that they like, and hopefully that's the case. And hopefully focus on the art, not the numbers. even though you know the number's gonna be crazy.
Lord, everything you need, come and see a real one. Time for you to feel alive. I'm just trying to make you feel